Hello and welcome back to the Forge. Today we're going to be working on installing pieces of 2x4 in between the ribs on my Quonset hut so that I can put up the corrugated sheeting to protect the inside from the elements. So I've already cut 2x4s into 4-foot sections. All I have to do now is drill holes through the ribs and through the boards in place. After that, I'm going to bring the corrugated sheeting in and attach it to the 2x4s, and I think unfortunately I'm going to have to cut about 4 inches off the bottom of each sheet of corrugated sheeting, so that's not too exciting, but something that needs to be done. And then if all goes well today and we finish up, hopefully tomorrow I'll be working on actually getting the forge built and up and running so that sometime next week I'll be able to start swinging a hammer. So that's where we're heading, and hopefully the project goes well today. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but it has started to rain outside, which is great because it softens up the earth, makes it easier to work with. So I'm glad that it decided to rain today, not yesterday. But anyways, I could continue working on this project right now, but the whole reason I have this roof over my head is so that I don't have to work in the rain. So I think I'll finish this up tomorrow, and what I'm going to work on instead today is I'm going to take this unicycle right here, and I'm going to weld it to a little frame, weld it to this frame right here. And then I'm going to use that to power the blower I have for my forge right here. So the first thing I'm going to have to do if I want to weld this onto my crosspiece is I have to sand down the paint. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take an angle grinder to it and just put a flap wheel on there and take that paint right off. So now that we have the unicycle set up next to the forge, it's time to install the blower to the bottom of the forge. And thankfully, I was able to find a couple of nuts and bolts that would fit. So let's see if we can't get them on here. Well, I lied. Looks like they might need to be taken down just a little bit. So let me show what I'm looking at right here. This is supposed to slide down in that little slot. So I forgot to record me grinding these down, but if you look at the bolt there, you can see that it's got grind marks on the other side. And all that I did was I took it over to the angle grinder and just ground down the edges a little bit, and hopefully that will allow it to seat with the blower. There we go. You can see it seats just fine now. Unfortunately, my bolts are just a little bit too long, so I'm going to have to go back over to the grinder and grind those down a little bit. Put the grinding wheel back on so I can now go back over this and smooth out those edges a little bit. Now we can see that even after they've been cut down a little bit, it's still not a perfect fit. The threads, or the shank, is too long, so that's alright. We'll go ahead and roll with this for now. We will lose a little bit of air because there's not going to be a perfect seal, but I think it'll be okay. So there it is. It's all bolted on now and should be good to go. Ready to get a belt on there. Should be ready to get a belt on there and start forging. Which is very exciting to me. So I'm gonna go see if I can't find something. So I found an old ratchet strap that I'm gonna try to melt together to make the strap for this, and a mistake that I almost just made, I almost just tried to melt this together before feeding it through the forks on my unicycle and the blower itself. So nearly made a fatal error. Thankfully I did not. So now let's see if we can get this to melt together. I have no idea if this is going to work. I just remember when I was in the Air Force, we'd burn our strings and they would kind of melt together sometimes. So here's to hoping. Okay, it's not working. It is tacky though, but just the edge. I think what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to hand stitch it. So I'm going to go see if I can find some of my wife's stitching equipment and see if we can't put this together. So I went inside to get the stitching stuff, and as I was walking over there I realized I am overthinking this. Tape. Duct tape should work just fine. So I'm going to try taping this up and then see if I can get it around and see if we can get this thing blowing. But I'm hoping it'll get the job done. At least until I can find a more permanent solution. So, let's wrap this around here. Maybe scoot this back just a little bit. And see what we get. And I know I've mentioned before that we don't get to go into town very often, but tomorrow night we are actually heading into town, so I might be able to find a solution there. think it's going to work okay as soon as I figure out how to get that from hanging up. So as I mentioned before, my wife and I had to make a town trip this weekend, and I was able to find 5 black leather belts, genuine leather, for $2.50. And I think that's what I'm going to end up cutting up to make the permanent strap. It's something that should hold up to the heat and last me a long time if we can do it right. So we're going to take this home, cut it up, and we have a leather punch, so we'll punch some holes in and sew it together, and we'll see how it works. I bought those belts and I cut them into 3/4 inch wide lengths, and now I'm using a contact cement, it's just weldwood contact cement, and I'm gluing them all together. And if you notice here, I have drilled holes into the belts themselves. And I'm going to take a cotton thread and I'm going to thread those through there and tie it up just to give it a little added strength, and then I will go over that with more of the contact cement. I'm hoping that once this all sets up and I've got the thread on there, that I'll be able to use this as the drive for my blower. So I will come back once this is all dry, and I'm going to skip showing you guys the threading process. It's not too terribly interesting, and it's going to take 2 hours for it to set up. So I'm just going to turn the camera off now, and I'll come back when I'm ready to make a fire. So here we have the completed belt and drive system. And as you'll notice, spins just fine. You can hear the blades. You can hear the blades in there clinking a little bit. I'm not too terribly worried about it. I think that with some use, it'll just kind of grind them down a little bit, and it'll be fine. And I can put my hand over it, over where the air comes out, and I feel quite a bit of air pressure coming through there. So the next thing to do is to fill this up with coal and see if we can't get a fire started. So here we are attempting to build a fire. See if I can't get this going. So, appears that I'm not a good fire maker. That's alright, we'll try again. So I'll have to try again tomorrow, I suppose. So I think tomorrow I'm going to try building a little bit better of a fire. Pardon me, a little better of a base for the fire, with wood, and then putting coal over top of it. But all in all, can't be too disappointed with what I achieved today. Pretty excited to be able to actually forge tomorrow. And so yeah, fire didn't work today, but that's okay. We'll figure it out tomorrow. So thank you for tuning in and watching this video, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow with some actual blacksmithing going on. So, thanks.